All right, welcome again to the third episode of Cherry Coke with Coach. Big announcement today. We're only 152 days away from the start of football season, so the countdown keeps going down. I had Aaron West ask me the other day, and it made me think. And I guesstimated 156, and it was actually like 160. So I'm pretty good at my football math. So once again, thank you for everybody for listening. Please like and share on Spotify and YouTube. Follow on Instagram and Twitter. It's at CC with Coach. Also, don't forget there's plenty of opportunities to sponsor. I mean, we'll take sponsorships. We'll promote you on the air and talk about the great businesses here around Red Oak and Southwest Iowa. Moving on, we got our weekly update. Coach Kip is out of town this week, so our Kip this week is Baz Clear. He's going to join us and be the co-host or researcher or whatever we decided on last week. So welcome, Baz. How are we doing today?
Doing good. Glad to be back.
You got a birthday coming up, I see.
Yep.
About the 15th.
You just had yours, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah. The good ones have it at the beginning of the month.
I'm on the 15th, dude. I just make the cut.
Well, I'm talking about the first 6 days.
I'm the guy that squeaks in.
7 days. You just slide in right at the end. Anything crazy happened last week? Anything in the news? Got anything?
I don't know.
You don't got nothing? I noticed something about cell phones. We had a big kick 2 weeks ago here at Red Oak.
Yeah.
Where Mr. Perrin went back to no cell phones. I think it was no cell phones in the first place.
Yeah.
But then the Houston school districts down in Texas, they're now saying that you have to leave your phone at the front office when you get to school in the morning. A senator from Arkansas was quoted saying, "Teachers dislike cell phones the way the devil hates holy water." So
Right.
it's a little aggressive. I feel like I think you got to teach the kids how to use a cell phone properly. I always tell kids all the time in class that you go to an adult meeting like we have for school, and our superintendent will be sitting up there talking, and you look around the room, and 3/4 of the room's on their phone, looking at social media, probably getting their next TikTok ready, because adults do the exact same thing as kids. So I think it's teaching them how to do stuff. I don't know, college, do you notice kids on their cell phones a lot?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's something we need to teach kids to be responsible. I think taking it away from them at the beginning of school day is kind of absurd.
I think there's a big problem with I know you hear it too. Like in high school, it's like at the beginning of the year, it's like no phones first 2 weeks, and then the third week, and it's still there. But then like the fourth week, it dumbs down, and then it dumbs down, and then nobody's talking about it come quarter.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, if you're really gonna push something, you have to push it all the way or don't push it at all.
Yeah, and then they had the big spikes. It's like a roller coaster ride with a lot of things too. But I've just noticed that cell phones, they've become a bigger issue than they need to be. I went to school with no cell phone, so it's
Life was easy.
life is pretty easy. You could screen every single call, you just didn't answer, and then they'd start talking on the voice or the voice recorder, and they'd be like, "Oh, I'll pick up that." My uncle, we still call him, and you just say, "Hey, Randall, it's Mike," and he'll pick up because he's just sitting by his phone playing on his computer, and next thing he knows, the phone rings. So who knows who you want to talk to, right? Yeah. So cell phones, that's a big one. I saw Russell Wilson is probably going to go to the Steelers. I don't know how much longer that feller has in the NFL. I think it's a good opportunity for him with the Steelers being a defensive focused team, and he's kind of a game control quarterback. He's not going to outrun anybody anymore. He's not going to outthrow anybody. So I think I don't know. We'll see. He didn't help the Broncos win, and I know Brando's a Broncos fan, so he was probably pretty sad about that. But he's kind of a letdown there in Denver.
Yeah.
So I think
good deal there.
he's on the way out. Caitlin Clark. I know you guys are wrestlers, so you probably don't really care much about basketball.
It is what it is.
What was the hype like? Because you were at Iowa for a while. Was it pretty crazy, like the hype around her, or was it not very big when you were there since you were in the fall?
You don't really hear about it too much going around campus, just because there's a lot of people there, but yeah, there is some. Everyone kind of knows about her a little bit, and I wouldn't say like she's put on a pedestal or anything. I'm sure she is come basketball season, but other than that, I didn't hear about her too much.
Yeah, she seems like a really good like ambassador for the game. Like she's going to be the face of the WNBA because I mean she does wonderful outside the sport. I always see videos of her trying to sign every single autograph.
Like mid-game, there was a girl.
Yeah, I came up and tapped her on the shoulder.
Tapped her on the shoulder. She's like, after the game.
Yep. I've seen her give out her shoes. I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. And we talked about it last week about the NIL deals that she already has. She's going to have a pretty good life. So that's pretty cool. She broke Pete Maravich's all-time scoring record for men or women. She shoots the ball from half court. Sometimes I feel like she's a kind of a ball hog, but and if you can score, you can score. She was on a podcast the other day, Two Peas in a Pod, and it's two of the basketball players for Patrick McCaffrey and Stanford. I can't remember. He's from Waukee, but they were talking about her, and she shot the ball 49 times in one high school game. I think probably the team had 52 shots. So, I mean, like, there's a point where you're shooting too much, but hey, if you win, you win. So,
But how many shots did she make?
I think they said it was a horrible night for her. She was like 13 for 49.
Oh, that's bad.
But if you think if that's all threes,
Right.
I mean, it's 26 points if you score all twos, three. That's solid math that I don't know. That's 30, 39. You're scoring 39 points if you hit all threes. And that doesn't include free throws. So she still probably popped off for a 50-point game.
Yeah.
But it was just those stat line didn't look very good. So other than some other crazy stuff there's a soccer guy that got arrested for having like 1,000 kilos of cocaine, and he plays professionally in Netherlands, and he's been playing for 2 years and hasn't gone to jail for it yet, which was pretty insane. But I think that's all we got for this week in our update. Next week, what do you got? We got spring break going on right now. Baz, you probably got some pretty exciting plans.
We're lifting from 7 to 9 every morning. It's kind of empty. I'm feeling a little lonely in there, honestly. So it would help if a couple guys would show up. That would be nice. But other than that, I'm just golfing, trying to get the swing back for season comes around. The 18th is when we start. So
I wonder if Bob's going to take 2 team photos again this year.
probably. And I'm probably not going to be in it, even though Peyton's going to be the one to.
Oh, gotta love golf. Gotta love golf. So I think that's all we got for the weekly update, the intro. We'll jump right into our guest today. I would say our guest today really doesn't need an introduction here in Southwest Iowa. But those from elsewhere in the state, this young man was the 2A Defensive Player of the Year. Iowa Sports named him that. First team All-State linebacker in 2A, number 1 in tackles in the whole state, All-State baseball, 5-year starter in baseball,
Yep.
4-year starter in football, right?
Yep.
What else we got? And our 2023 Iowa State High School Wrestling Champ at 160 Class 2A. So the champ, DB, boss, we got Dawson Bond here today. Welcome, Dawson. How are we doing today?
Thanks, Coach. Good.
So what's going on? I know we're going to talk about working out. We're going to talk about wrestling. We're going to talk about, I don't know, motivate ultra marathons. That'll be kind of a fun one.
Yeah, we'll get to
but
it all.
what have you been up to lately? What's been new with Dawson?
Well, continuing to compete here, second semester at Iowa Western as a student athlete, and right now we're in the off season a little bit. So came in this morning, coach opened it up for us. So we're working like always.
It's it's nice having you back from Iowa City. If you will, you spent your first semester there. Now he's back at Iowa Western here in Southwest Iowa. So we get to see him like pretty much every Monday. Get to come in for a lift, and I always get my Saturday or Sunday phone call. Can you open the weight room? It was funny the other day. He asked me to open it, and I got back to him 12 minutes later. And I was like, hey, I can come open it now, but my parents are coming to town, so I got to do it now. And he's like, don't worry, Kip's already got it. So it took him 12 minutes to find somebody else. Like, you didn't even what if I was taking a nap? I need at least 20 minutes. So good thing we got Kip around too to knock that out for him. But,
Yeah, that's the beauty of having a lot of coaches that are devoted to helping the kids. So.
Yeah, I mean, if our kids want to be great, we're gonna follow them as much as we can. So, what was it like wrestling at Iowa Western? Comparable to your high school experience,
It
or
was a little bit of a swing there. It's a little more physical, a little more intense. The practices they flow a lot more. They're more intense, I would say, and so a lot of the practices we're sitting on, like say like a drill for 7 minutes and then straight into the next, and it's really constant work the whole time.
is there as much like learning new techniques or learning new moves, or is it pretty much like, hey, you guys should have a pretty good list and bank of moves? We're teaching you technique of how to switch moves, things like that, or
Yeah, you go in and they don't necessarily want to change you a whole lot. They more want to add to kind of your style, I should say. And we watch a lot of film, and I talk with one of my coaches, Zeb Wall, and he kind of works with the upper weights, and he'll kind of nitpick some of the things I do, and then he will also like add to that as well.
nice. Yeah, it's I know high school wrestling, seeing these guys around here, it's got to be a grind. And college, I just imagine. I mean, football's a job in college, so I imagine that wrestling's a job in college.
Yeah, we go 2-a-days every day. We're lifting 3 times a week, running 3 times a week. And other than that, it's a lot of you're focused on wrestling the time you're there. You're there to wrestle, basically.
Yeah, and Iowa Western, I mean, they got some phenomenal facilities over there for all sports.
It's fantastic.
I mean, it helps that they got an amazing football program, and then I think all other sports programs are same tier as their football program.
Soccer team, track team just won national titles, so it's.
And how'd wrestling do at
Wrestling
nationals?
finished 5th in the nation.
I mean, that's still
Yeah.
that's still filthy. I mean, that's amazing.
I think there's just a culture around Iowa Western when you have the football team kind of leading the way, and then I think that brings the soccer team, the track team, brings the expectations to a national title.
It's that culture of championship mentality. I mean, kids want to be involved with that. You win a few games, and then you start getting more and more kids there. I know back in the day, I don't know what year, but they talked about turning Iowa Western into a 4-year, like an NAIA program, and people came to him. I think the football coach was one of the biggest advocates. Like, that's going to ruin our sports program, because then you're getting different types of athletes coming in the door instead of the D1 pushbacks or the guys that didn't get the grades, so they're trying to get to the next level. You're just getting your scholarship kids that are going for 4 years instead of 2. Mm-hmm. So I agree with that. I kind of think that would have ruined Iowa Western in the long run. But they got something going on over there. It's pretty amazing. So you redshirted, correct?
Yep, redshirted this year.
So you still got 2 more years, possibly at Iowa Western.
That I can use. Yeah.
And then what'd you go in? Because that's one of the amazing things about high school now. Baz, I'm sure you take some college classes. When I was in high school, we had one option, and that was building trades, and you can get 4 college credits for a semester. Now, how many did you walk out of high school with?
I walked out of high school with 24 credits.
So that's a whole year of college that you could be done with. That's amazing. Do you take college classes too then, Baz?
I'll walk out with 12.
12, so that's a semester.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a semester. And that's thousands of dollars that you guys are saving. So in retrospect, you could technically have graduated this year. Or is there certain classes you need to finish before you can graduate?
I think there is kind of the requisites for your certain major, because I'm a business transfer, so I got to get some of the business classes done for specifically Iowa Western. But after that, I gotta be real close to getting the associates.
Yeah. So I mean, technically, you could wrestle, go a whole year, because I mean that's kind of the tough part about wrestling. It takes up 2 semesters, so I mean you kind of have to stay the whole year. But are you going for a certain associate's degree, or are you just getting your 2 gen ed's done and then carrying it on? Because you mentioned business, so is that pretty much what you're?
Yeah, I think
100% aim.
A lot of stuff that will transfer out, and then hopefully go into some of the neuroscience, psychology aspect when I'm at a 4-year.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the crazy thing. You could graduate. You could be in a graduate program and still technically not even have used your red shirt or anything like. I mean, you used it, but you still have 4 years of eligibility, and you're only got 2 years of college technically left.
Yeah.
Do you have plans to do anything post bachelor? Do you want to get into the graduate master's programs, or is that too far ahead for you?
We'll see what arises, I should say.
Do you have a goal after Iowa Western? Is it to take your wrestling talents somewhere else and help you get to a 4-year, or are you just kind of, I want to wrestle for a couple more years and see what shakes out?
Yeah, I think the beauty of it is having a lot of options, and there's still things that I want to do that, a lot of people might not even
Think about?
think of still. So I think, we'll see how the opportunities arise as they come. And right now, what you do then is you just work as hard as you can and see what pops up.
That's what it kind of reverts. When you won the state title last year in wrestling, you made a comment that kind of I feel it kind of feeds into that and I'm going to paraphrase. So if I say it, you can requote it if you'd like. But they asked you about winning the state title. And you said this isn't the end goal. It's part of the journey. So that kind of leads into what you were just talking about when we were saying, what's your journey look like? You're just looking for that next peak, that next pinnacle, right?
Exactly.
Do you know what the end goal is, the end of the journey is, or are you just looking for those pinnacles along the way?
Honestly, I don't think there is an end, and that's what keeps me going every day is your kind of upward trajectory for the rest of your life almost. Because if you think about it and you look at it as if that title would have been the peak of my life, then what am I going to do after that? Was 17 years old when I won it, and at 17, you don't want to just be done and coast the rest of your life. So
you could come back to Red Oak anytime in your life and be that guy. They portray it in movies all the time. The guy graduated 15 years ago and still wears his Letterman jacket, and probably. We recorded in a high school, so no school today. We still got the bells, so sorry about that. But you could be that guy, never pay for another drink at the stadium ever again kind of guy, Rocky would hook it up. But that's why I love about your attitude and the way you look at it is, and the mindset of it's definitely a growth mindset. It's not fixed. You're not set on, if the crazy thing is most people are like, hey, they would have been like, I'm a state champion, like that's it. And other good things would have been happening in their life, but they always lean back on, hey, I was a state champion, I was this, instead of finding that new high, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
That's what I love about you and the mindset you have with everything, sports and life. Baz, I know Baz was your training partner there at the state tournament. And that speaks volumes for Baz. We always talk about how hard he works. And did you get to choose your training partner, or was it kind of like Pod saying, "Hey, Baz is the guy for you"?
We wrestled the whole year, and I mentioned Baz, and I still talk to my teammates about him. All it takes is hard work, and you wrestle a guy like Baz, and all that hard work, and obviously it pushes you.
Drives you to that next level. Is wrestling like like I talk about in football, brotherhood, right? You got your bonds and stuff like that. Is that similar to wrestling?
Yeah, there's a lot of mutual respect after practices. When you're beating up on each other, it's kind of like, thank you, you made me better today. And I think that's the biggest part about it is at the end of the day, you're making each other better.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to.
I just remember walking into, I think it was an open mat, and I didn't really know who I was going to wrestle, as I wasn't really sure who you were going to pick, because it was kind of just a pick. Like, it was just, I knew you had Kyler, Adam, and me that were going to be, like, the three that you were going to pick upon, and I kind of figured it wasn't going to be Kyler, because Kyler's 126, and then you just kind of pointed, I looked over, and you pointed at me, and I was like, here we go. I was like, it's going to be all 3 or 4 months. It was tough, but it was fun.
Do you ever have a time where you're not motivated? Like you get up in the morning and you're like, I'm not doing it today, and you actually stay home.
Well, I'm glad you asked that, and I think with getting up in the morning, doing it for so long, it's
It's a routine now.
Yeah, it's an expectation to get up and go lift. So there are times where I'm actually like, even now, I'm more excited than I was when I was younger, when I was a freshman, sophomore, junior. I'm more excited to get up now because I'm just excited to get better and really focusing on the journey, the process. I mean, Sundays are my favorite day. I can't wait for Monday.
You talked about difference between younger and older. I mean, obviously the gains for you when you were a freshman and sophomore were probably enormous, and you had less of the plateau aspect of it all. I'm sure you're plateauing a lot right now. How do you keep yourself motivated to continue, even though your increases might only be 5 pounds every month or 2 months or longer?
Yeah.
How do somebody? Because I know that's a frustrating thing for a lot of high school kids, and they don't see results anymore. So they're like, well, I'm not going to do it anymore, right? Because if I'm not going to gain muscle, I'm not looking like Ronnie Coleman or David Goggins. Why should I continue to do this? So, I mean, what kind of motivates both of you guys? Because I mean, Baz is the same way. He's always in there.
Well, going back to that growth mindset, it's ever since a freshman, even like middle school, I've always thought that every year I come back to football season, wrestling season, then that I need to be better than last year. And you look at it, my tackles in football from freshman to senior year probably quadrupled maybe, which is funny. But, you come back and I think every year more tackles sophomore year, junior year, senior year. Same thing with wrestling, more wins, more success. Same thing with baseball. And I think coming back into the weight room, it's like pounding at the rock until it breaks. And first semester, I got a glimpse of that. I hit 315 on bench, and I remember working out in the weight room with some of these guys, and they're telling me you're going to hit 315 someday. I was like, no way, I'm not built for that. And then I ended up hitting it, and I'm like, okay, how far can I go now?
Yeah, and I mean, how long did it? I mean, I guess that's how long it took you to get a 315 is not the appropriate question. Like, was there a plateau time where you were like 300 and then all of a sudden it just banged it out? Or how did you get from, what process did you take to get from that 300 to 315?
Well, it took me, I remember I went back recently and looked at the time from my ultra until I hit that, and I think it was 18 weeks. And I remember a week after the ultras when I started really hitting the weights hard. So 18 weeks, just hard work, deloads, eating right, especially getting enough sleep, and 18 weeks is basically what it took me, and that might have been 15 pounds.
That addition. See, and that for most people, that's a long time. I mean, 15 weeks, you're looking 4, 8, 12, 16, that's what, 4 months almost?
Yeah.
Just trying to build it back up. Because do you think you lost some strength running the ultra?
Oh, for sure. I was pretty weak, I would say, compared to what I would have been 18 weeks later.
Well, so Dawson ran an ultra marathon this past fall. Why don't you tell us a little bit about where it was, what it is? I'm guessing most of our listeners don't even know what an ultra marathon is.
So an ultra marathon is classified as basically anything above a marathon. So it could be 26.3 technically, but yeah, it was in Van Meter, Iowa, kind of right out of Des Moines area. You ran through Winterset and all those towns, and it was a experience that I probably will never forget, the feeling of my feet and my legs afterwards. But it's basically, you get 32 hours, I think, to complete most of them, depending on distance. And
what was your distance that they had, the maximum distance?
100 kilometers, so 63 miles. And
to do that in 36 hours.
I think the 100K would have been, I don't know what the cutoff, somewhere in the 20s.
20s,
yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's still tough, and it was a lot of gravel.
Okay, that's what I was just going to ask. Gravel, and was there, did you run gravel roads, like grass at all, up hills? I mean, this is probably the hilliest part of Iowa, so, I mean, you probably had some hills.
Oh, yeah, it was just gravel roads, back roads, and it wasn't really kind of closed off the route. So at the same time, I remember semi trucks were passing you, a bunch of dust flying up in your mouth, and it was. I mean, that's kind of what you get. You know, you
Yeah.
don't want it to be easy.
Yeah.
So there's a little added.
Well, it's kind of like
suffering.
you told me that you used to wear gloves and a stocking cap while running your morning runs for wrestling, and you took the gloves off because it was just that added extra element, basically, to overcome. Isn't that?
Yeah,
Pod told you something.
it's a good story. Sophomore year, I read the book Can't Hurt Me for the first time, and I kind of thought of it before that as some kind of nerdy Navy SEAL, like what's he going to talk about, and ended up 3 months later I'm running through a brick wall for this guy that's the author. And I remember it was sophomore year over winter break, might have been 16 degrees out, and that was the first time I think I really started to run. And I remember I was bundled up, 3 layers of everything. And I remember just last year I ran in 15 degrees with just shorts, stocking cap, and gloves. No shirt or anything. And so, like, the progress, and I think that shows kind of my mental strength, how it has increased. And so, yeah, it's something most people wouldn't understand now. And
It probably helps you in other aspects, because if you're mentally strong enough to not wear a shirt in 15-degree heat and weather and run, it could be facing a bigger opponent in wrestling, someone with longer reach that could beat you because of that. Like, that's not a big deal anymore because the mindset transfers over from running to wrestling to football to classwork even, right?
Yep. And the thing I love about it is it's purely a choice.
Absolutely.
No one's telling me to take your shirt off and go run outside when it's wintertime and it's dark.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how it carries over to football, to the weight room in the morning. You know, no one's telling me to get up. No one's telling you to work after football, after wrestling, baseball, whatever sport it might be. And especially with schoolwork, too. No one's telling you to get your schoolwork done. Well, I mean, you kind of are. You want to get good grades.
Yeah. But it's your choice to do it or not.
Exactly, yeah.
So I mean, I mean, that goes right back to that growth mindset of just wanting to be better at something. That's what I had a teacher tell me in college, that everybody's learning the same thing in what you're learning. So I was an exercise science major, so everybody's learning that pre-med stuff, that biomechanics and everything. But if you read other books, that's putting you ahead of those people because they're not taking the extra time to and that's any book you want to read. So I read 3 different topics every year, pick something different to read about, and then that just adds more information to me. I might be the coolest guy at a trivia night, but you know, it's making my brain, and it's helping you. It's a brain elasticity.
Yeah.
That never stops. You can always be learning. So it's that mindset that's huge. What kind of workouts what's your current workout plan now? I know as we for I think 3 years, there's a handful of guys that I've been around quite a lot more than others. I mean, every morning at 5 a.m., I think Baz, Dawson, Landon, Aiden Bruce, Landon Cowes, Riley Fouts was there for a while. Now Ethan Fouts is there. We kind of named it the Breakfast Club. And we've talked a lot about workout plans in the weight room, and I've seen you adjust your workout plan so much because of the different activities you're in. Now you're just focused on wrestling. Does that change how your workout plan is? I mean, what are you doing right now with it being the beginning of the off season? Do they give you a plan, or do you kind of do your own thing?
We're kind of doing our own thing right now, and what I'm mainly focused on is kind of getting some of that strength back that you might have lost, cutting weight, or losing weight, I should say. And right now we're doing a lot of explosive stuff, and I lift 6 times a week, and I'll run basically.
Is that 6 days, or do you do double days? Okay.
6 days. And then I'll run. I might run 7 days a week, 6 days, 5 days. It's all how I feel. I usually set I want to hit like usually 35 to 40 miles a week and adjust off that, adjust the length of the runs and how I feel from my lifts carrying over to my running. But right now I've been lifting in the morning because I kind of want to prioritize getting some of that strength back.
Do you see a difference in lifting in the morning compared to the afternoon or midday? I mean, is there a difference to you guys when you lift? Does it affect you at all differently?
I think it starts my day better. I really like my day seems off just from like for 3 years been doing it. My day just seems off when I don't do it in the morning. In the afternoon, I feel a little sluggish in my workout, and it can kind of take longer. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I definitely. There's pros and cons, I feel. I mean, you can't really imitate the feeling of a good morning lift, with a bunch of guys. And I think at Iowa, I would lift in the evening after class, and I could kind of tell with you get a couple meals in and your energy is a little higher, but I don't think it makes that much of a difference. And I think I would, if I had a choice, go in the morning just because it's a routine and
Sorry.
You're fine.
It's more about the routine then.
Exactly.
I mean,
yeah.
as long as you have a routine set, it's going to be beneficial to you. Explosive workouts, so cleans. I where you're doing some snatches the other day in the weight room.
Yep.
Pretty much full body movements is for the explosive movements that you're
Yeah.
doing. Do you still get into a lot of Olympic lifts then? Your traditional bench, dead, clean, or bench dead squat.
Yeah, squats and bench. I don't deadlift too much anymore, but I think a lot of people need to start doing more explosive lifting because I see a lot of, not that it's bad, but a lot of bodybuilder-esque workouts now, and that you want to kind of look like that. But I think, especially in high school, if you can really focus more on your performance than anything, you're going to be so much farther ahead than 90% of the competition.
Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, and non-athlete still do explosive lifts, you think, or are they more of like not bodybuilder type, but they don't need to be out there doing cleans if you're just a normal Joe. I mean,
yeah, I don't think really you need to do a lot of explosive stuff. I think it's more, you get your squat in, you get your compounds in, and really just more functional. Make sure you're healthy and can move still.
How that made me thinking of because we were talking about wrestling and lifting. As a football coach, I see the wrestlers, especially in high school. I don't know if it's as big in college, but the cutting of weight. I noticed you changed your sentence there from cut to lose, and to me those are drastically two different things. Do you think it's smart the way that kids cut weight in high school? Or to me, my rant is if you wrestle your weight that you're at and you gain strength and you work out and you eat right, you're going to be better on the mat than somebody that loses or cuts 20 pounds and is sitting in class drinking out of a water bottle but then spitting the water back out.
Yeah.
Or eating 500 calories a day.
Mm-hmm.
You never missed a morning. I think you might have missed a couple.
Yeah.
There's a couple of Sundays after a big tournament you'd win and you'd want to be in the weight room Sunday the next day. How much did your workout program change? What's your thoughts on the cutting weight, high school wise? Just all that. I guess I asked about 12 questions in one, but
I don't know really where the notion came from of cutting weight, and I even thought about it when I was freshman and sophomore.
Why did it cross your mind? Was it because of the competition, like who you were going to wrestle? Did you think you were going to be better at a lower weight, or I mean, what went through your mind that made you think I need a cut?
I think both of those are part of it. That you look at some kid and maybe you think you can't beat him, so then you adjust your weight accordingly. And the other one is I think people want to cut weight because they'll be bigger, and that is the case sometimes. But a lot of the times, even now in high school, I see so many kids that are just dead every single day. And
yes,
what that does is I think it carries into practice too. And you have no energy in practice, you're not going to get any better throughout the season.
Yeah, I mean, and if a kid just wrestles, I could see it more as okay, they're cutting, right? But if you don't cut the whole year round, like I just don't understand how that is healthy in the long run, even, because I mean it's got to affect your metabolism, your eating habits when you're older. I mean, it's got to do some damage to the body and like you said, going down a weight, you're losing strength, you're losing fuel because you're not eating. Your muscles are deteriorating because you're not eating, not giving it the energy it needs, the carbs to especially carbs. Do you guys even eat carbs during wrestling season?
I mean, you get them in like every once in a while. I mean, you get them in like before practice maybe because
Pre-match.
that'll give you that fuel, and then after weigh-ins.
Because you guys get a little time after weigh-ins to eat.
Yeah, one or 2 hours.
But you're not going to want to gorge yourself because I mean that's just going to hurt you, load you for the match or tire you even.
Like I'll have like after my weigh-ins, I would have like some watermelon and then drink some water, and that'd be it. Because I was like, I don't want to fill up too much, and then so like because if you fill up too much, you're just gonna be groggy, and all that's rolling around in your stomach when you're warming up, and it just sucks.
So if a high school kid was listening right now, they're a wrestler, right? And they also, let's just do your school year, and we won't count like the Fargo wrestling and all that stuff. So you have football in the fall, wrestling in the winter, and baseball in the summer. So you have the spring off. What would you tell a kid? What should their workout like year plan be like? Does that make sense? For lifting, yeah, like lifting, like if to maintain, right? Because that's what you did. You played football at 170.
Yeah.
175, then you wrestled at 160. So the cut, you could finish football cut or lose weight and be perfect for wrestling. And then you had the spring to recover mentally, physically, all that, and then you got into baseball. You could base it off your workout plans, what you did per season, or like what would you recommend for a high school kid that's listening that wants to be a great wrestler but also perform in other sports?
Yeah, and I want to say that I wasn't the greatest athlete in Iowa, but I know a fair share, and I think
You're up there, son. You're up there.
I think the thing is you keep the cardio for sure. I think that's the biggest thing I did in football. I remember having you let me in after a team meal and get some running in before game on Thursday, and I think what I did in wrestling is it wasn't too much. Like now we're really doing 3-4 exercises per muscle group trying to get back, and that's what I do in football. And then wrestling I would kind of take it to 2, and I wouldn't even do that many reps. I'd do.
Would it almost be like a season of deload per se?
Yeah,
I mean, you're still getting the movements.
I took something from Wartburg. What they did is before like almost every meet, whatever workout I was hitting that day, I would go like 90% max and just do like 2 reps, and because that kind of like, I guess it primes your nervous system and to get you ready to compete and be explosive. So
Yeah, because it's still going to fire off all the fancy words in there. I might have a degree in it, but those words are big. But yeah, I mean, because then you're looking at the strength and power aspect. Because 1, 2, I mean, you're still having to push that 90% max 2 times, and that's going to be beneficial. So it really you weren't tearing down muscles and building back up during wrestling season. You're just kind of maintaining your weight, and since you weren't fluctuating so much, you were able to accomplish that. You were able to eat right. You were able to lift sparingly. Because what was your split? Were you a 3 or 4 day split or 5?
for
Did
wrestling,
you get in every day?
try to, other than maybe meet days and tourney days on Saturdays. So yeah, I think it was like you said, just a lot of maintaining, and then after that you can focus more on building back, kind of, or if you want to build more than you were, kind of stuff.
Baseball, I kind of more. It didn't affect you for lifting, powerlifting, and everything during that.
No, not at all.
If you lift in the morning, you're fine in the afternoon.
Yeah, especially summer weights is always fun too, and baseball isn't as, physically demanding as football or wrestling, so it's a good time too to kind of just lift heavy.
I remember your senior year. I bragged it up and you guys know me. I like to make little slight comments when people aren't in the weight room and things like that. I'm a little smart ass, I guess you could say. But you lifted one morning, and I remember you pitching that night against Creston, and you threw a 2-hitter,
Yeah.
2-hit shutout, 12 strikeouts.
17.
17 strikeouts. I'm way off. My bad. And then you drove in or scored the winning run.
Yeah, I think I had 2 hits that game. I don't know if I scored or if someone else scored, but yeah, I like that you said that. Lifting before, it's nothing but a mental edge. Nothing but a mental edge. I remember wrestling, I would wake up earlier than any day the rest of the week when I was dueling, because it's just a mental edge is all it is. You go into that competition and saying, I've done more than you, so I'm going to outwork you. I'm going to outcompete.
I love it, and then you came in the next morning after pitching that game.
Yeah.
I mean, we might have talked an extra 20 minutes that day, but you still got that full workout in.
Yep.
And I always tell the kids, I remember TCU when they won a national baseball championship, they had videos of them maxing out on power cleans, the day of the national championship game. They were in the weight room that morning maxing out on that stuff.
Yeah.
And then another great story was your guys' senior year, more than yours. We still brought them, but we take weights with us to away football games. And I think it's the coolest thing ever because we just throw them out in their front yard of their school, and we got guys just cleaning. So we walked. The West Central Valley coach told me he was happy that his team has a locker room down at the stadium because he didn't want them to see us doing that pregame because they thought it was the craziest thing ever. But I mean, I think it's a game changer. I mean, it wakes up your muscles. We're not saying you're doing 225 cleans, but you're doing 185s. You're doing, put 25s on and getting a nice little pump and waking up the muscles and preparing them for battle. But yeah, I always love that kids that come in and lift during baseball season because I think they say 6 to 8 hours for recovery. You can be able to participate in the sport. And then also us lifting before a football game. I don't see many teams do that, and I love it. I love it. If we ever get to build a new field house locker room down there, we're gonna have a little cubby hole that's gonna have a little weight room in there because, I mean, the weight room's the best place in the world.
Yeah, that's exactly with the mental edge. You don't want to see the guy that you're going to play against in football lifting, cleaning before the game.
Yeah.
You don't want to line up against that guy.
Like, this guy was doing 225 bench before we got here. They didn't have a bench out there.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a mental edge, motivation for everything. Because if you can do that, I mean, you're pushing yourself. Mm-hmm. I truly believe it carries over into your everyday life. Look at your academics. I mean, it was close to 4. If you would have gave Art a little more of a try, it might have been a 4. But we'll blame Mr. Adams for that situation. But it's true. Like everything that if you're good in sports, it's because you're good in school. You're not causing problems outside of school. You're being a good leader in school. We even talked about it last year when you helped me with that the speaking thing we did for the school last year. Kind of told our life stories, where we were. It's just it changes people, and you get a little more leniency. I mean, I'm sure you got away with a little bit more. Not saying you did anything wrong or illegal or were out to cause problems.
Just a couple minutes late.
Yeah,
I was gonna just say I've been
my
late with you before.
My bus has waited for one person in my coaching career, and it was Dawson Bond. And kids were giving me crap saying I thought we'd leave no matter what, and I'm like, not without Bobby Boucher. And he comes throwing up in his Bobby Boucher jersey with just smile on his face, hot tamales, and his jug of water. Because that's his pregame go-to. We're gonna wait for DB. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, and I remember talking to those kids, and I just came back. I think it was Tuesday last week doing a track workout, and there were some kids playing football there, and some kid I didn't recognize him at all and asked me, "Are you Dawson Bond?" So I think a lot of the things we do and our actions have a bigger impact than I think we realize on the younger kids.
Yeah, you as high school athletes, I mean, the coaches tell you guys every year that those young kids are watching you, and every year we tell it, and it's true. I mean, you guys finally see it, and you guys live that. that you were looking up to, the Justin McCunns. I mean, that's about 4 years difference from you guys. Carter Maines, those kind of guys, right? That were in the room, and they were the big time guys in the school at that time. What else we got? I'm talking a lot. Hey, Badge, you got anything good for the cause?
I don't know. I just say, because I know, like you said, the kids look up to you. Like in the football games, like when we're down and they're standing there at halftime and they do the high fives. They want the high fives. I remember that because like you used to be that little kid. You like wanted the high five, and those guys are I mean, you know those guys are pissed, but you still want a high five. But it's like they really do look up to you. So,
Absolutely.
because I remember walking off this year and like kids want the high five.
We just got smoked, and it's like but they love you guys.
Yeah,
I mean, it's what they look up to. They want to wear the orange, the black, the gray, the green in the future.
Green.
You know, they want to wear it all. I mean, since we're bringing up the past, this is a big reason why. Another reason why mindset and the way Dawson is that we were playing OABCIG his junior year. And I mean, we were getting smacked around. They were good. We watched film at the beginning of the week, and I'm like, oh man, these guys aren't that good on film. We get there, and they were athletes. Dawson one point said, we got to get to the corner on this guy, and I think Riley was like, but he's too fast. Yeah. And we figured out better angles, and we got to him. But at the end of the game, I took a knee, and we ran out the clock. And Dawson made the comment to me that I thought we never give up. And I'm sitting here like, Dawson made the ball on the 3-yard line, back against the wall. If we give it fourth down, we're going to give it to them. They're going to score again. That's just the way they were. And it was just that fight in somebody with 3 seconds left in the game. They were still like, we're not giving up. We're not going to stop. And that's exactly what we've kind of touched on here in the last hour about that mindset.
That's one thing I can't understand. Like about especially this year, we didn't have like a great season, but it's like. I just kind of see, like, I look around on the sideline and we're down like 2 scores and kids are like giving up, and I just don't understand that. I don't know if it's just because I'm a wrestler or what it is, or like where I come from, how I came up, but it's just I don't understand why mentally you just like decide that you're no longer in it. Like it baffles me because I really just don't understand it. Because I come on the sideline, I'm talking to Adam and he's like, I don't get it either. I was like, I don't get like where it is mentally that we are that some people aren't. It's just
wrestlers are definitely built different. I'd say that's probably the most mentally tough sport there is. I mean, because you're fighting for your team, you got your brothers cheering for you, but it's you on that mat by yourself with that other guy. Yeah. In high school, do you guys do a lot of film study, or do you just know the kids because you wrestle them so much?
A little bit of both. When you get to state, you do a little bit, and you kind of see what they're doing because they're, all around Iowa. But Hawkeye 10, you don't.
You kind of just know them already because, I mean, you wrestle the same guys the whole year. Being over here in Southwest Iowa, you're kind of stuck with who you got.
Well, the guys I wrestled this year, the guys that he wrestled the past 2 years. So
they're like,
I've seen them.
And then they're like, well, we got to take it out on you because Dawson was a meanie to me the last 2 years now. With his, I got to admit, your senior year, you had a lot more swagger than my first year I was here. You're kind of a little more mild mannered.
Except for the cater tournament.
Yeah, you kind of just you went out, you went out and did your thing, but then baseball, the pound in the chest, walking off the mound. I was flipping burgers back there, and I was getting excited. I was flipping them over the edge because it was like just the swagger coming out. And football, I mean, that's what we say, speed, aggression, and swagger, and it makes the game funner.
It helps
to have a little more fun.
Too.
Yeah, way more.
Yeah, it absolutely elevates the rest of the team. Even in wrestling, like if you get a big win and you come hopping off the mat and pumped up, it's going to help that next guy, and the whole team get elevated. I always loved when you'd get your takedown, your 3 near, and then you roll them back over, throw the hands up, look at the ref no hands, and then you get them again, lock them up, and get 3 more. And it's
I don't get why kids leave their arm. They leave their arm. I think they just know they're going to get tacked or something, but they just would leave their arm, and you could just go right back to it. I'm like,
and then watching the other team's coach, like when you would wrestle, they would just sit there and just like,
Yeah.
Well, what, and
What do we
like,
do?
like, they probably, what do you think a kid is told before they, I mean, not to make you sound like you're the greatest wrestler of all time, but, I mean, how many times you get taken down your senior year of high school wrestling? Twice?
I think 4 times.
4 times.
5.
50 matches? Yeah. So, what do you think a coach tells a kid before they go wrestle a Dawson, a Ben Keeter, a Deshaun, Jay Sean Ross? Like, what do you think a coach tells a kid before that match?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what I would tell someone wrestling me, but
Because I mean, in football and other sports, baseball, like it's a team, so you can be like, hey, if we all play together, you know, we can do this. Like we watch film all week to kind of figure out what they're going to do. Wrestling, it's like that dude out there is the #1 kid in the state. He's a dude. Like you're a freshman, you don't have any muscle on your body. Like, give it your best try. Like, do you kind of probably tell the kid like this is what he likes? Don't get caught in this. Don't get caught in that. Like, try and help him. I don't know. How do you help a kid in that?
Me doing Freco and stuff, and like being able to get into like Greco positions. Like, I remember this year, like first duel, I wrestled Creston. What's his name?
Bollinger.
Yeah, I wrestled Bollinger, and he took me down, put me away. And Pod was like, I walked off, and Pod was like, he had the respect that you were gonna catch, that he needed to put you away because you're willing to catch him. So I guess what Pod would say is like, if I'm gonna go out there and wrestle a kid that's like probably ranked like Scott or Bollinger, like you can catch him. Just because I'll get in Greco positions and I'll get in over-unders where you get 50-50 and it's more of a dangerous position. So Pod would tell me to he'd be like, get in the position that you want to do and put him on his back and try and put him away. But don't Pod's not going to tell me to go out there and try and wrestle a straight-up match against somebody that's ranked #1 in the state. That's just not a smart coaching choice.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you gotta find your opening to be able to win. Did you go out differently against, like, I don't want to talk down on kids, but like a lesser opponent? Would you go out there and like, I'm gonna work on this today? Or were there like better opponents who were like, I got to go out there and I got to pin this guy right away because I can't mess around with this kid?
I don't think as much my senior year. I kind of started to where it was, I'm just going to go out in my offense. Even like some of the finals of my wrestling tournaments, you know, you're pinning kids and you're majoring them. And I think that was the biggest mentality shift that I had, is that I can beat this kid by more than I have been. You know, it shouldn't be a close match in my mind. And I think that goes back to how you work, how you practice, and, you know, when you're practicing hard every day, I don't think anyone can hang for 6 minutes in a high school match.
Yeah. Do you, because I mean, you face guys a lot, the same guys. Do you factor that in? Like, I beat him 6-2 the first time, but then the second time I got better because I beat him 8-1, right? Do you use that as kind of a stepping stone to see how much better you're getting? Because I mean, honestly, you guys don't. I mean, the competition's great down here, but it's the same kids over and over and over again. You don't have the benefit of Central Iowa where you can wrestle different teams every week.
Yep, and it gets harder every time you wrestle someone because they kind of get a sense.
They're figuring you out.
Exactly, and that's what I mean by the mentality shift. Is then you got to find new ways to score to put up more points. And that's how it was with a certain opponent that I won't name. It was first match, it was 6-1. Next, I pinned him in like a minute something. I was getting to more of my offense, and then finally kept getting to my offense. And the last time we wrestled, it was 14-2. And I don't necessarily know that he got any worse or if I got any better. I think it was just the mentality shift that I'm gonna get to my stuff today.
And that's to me, that's an improving too, because you don't just improve physically and technically in wrestling or any sports. The mentally is probably the biggest part of any sport, because I mean, you go in either giving up or you just say, hey, I know this kid's, I pinned him and I beat him twice this year. Like, I'm just going to go out and waste him and go home.
Well, junior year, I beat a kid like 5-4 at the duel, beat him at Hawk 10 like 8-4, and then districts coming around, and I ended up losing to him. It's hard to beat a guy 3 times.
Yeah. And that's what they say in football and everything.
Like basketball, it's hard to beat a team 3 times in basketball.
Yep. I mean, that's why you got, I mean, even twice, it's tough to beat a team. That's what, when I was in high school, that's what we had. We played Iowa Falls in the season, and then we play in the playoffs too. And we were number 1 and number 2. And whoever won the regular season game usually lost the playoff game. I mean, we won one. It was 14-6, and then we lost to them 42-14 in the playoffs. So I mean, that was 4 weeks difference. You know, we didn't change anything. They didn't change anything, and they were just better that day. But so let's see. We're still on the wrestling talk. I thought of something last night. Ross, he won the Mr. Wrestler 3A as a sophomore. I don't know if anybody else has ever done that.
Well, Keeter did it.
Keeter won as a sophomore?
Yeah.
He was a 3-timer,
was a
Mr. 4-time Mr. Wrestler?
Oh, Mr. Wrestler?
Yes.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know about sophomore.
Yeah, so I think Ross might be the first one to win it as a sophomore.
Yeah.
And I mean, Iowa history, there's plenty of amazing wrestlers. I think we have 32 4-time state champs in the state of Iowa. Who do you guys, is Ross going to be the greatest wrestler in Iowa high school history? Because Keeter the best currently, the best of all time.
So that Keeter is. I don't think he will be, but I think he'll be the most dominant wrestler that we've ever seen. Because I think, he pinned his way through the tournament this year.
Yes.
So I think that will be kind of his thing. I think Keeter. I like that Keeter had a lot of success in football too, and he was just a freak athlete, and he had a world title, I believe, world team maybe.
Yeah, he did.
But
When Ross is a 4-star football player as well, he was all-state
Yes.
as a sophomore linebacker. His reach is uncomparable to anybody. I mean, he stands there and his knuckles drag on the ground.
Well, it's double.
I mean,
That's what he gets to, is double.
double. I mean,
Because he can just reach out and
grab you. Yeah, I mean, winning a Mr. Wrestler award. Has he ever lost a match?
I say, is he undefeated? I don't know.
in his whole career, he has lost to Aiden Sinclair of Wisconsin, and he's committed to Missouri, so he's pretty legit.
Yeah, when you get to those out-of-state matches, like you guys go to that the Stampede.
Yep.
I mean, you had to wrestle Ferrari's little brother that one year.
Yeah, it's different. It's a different ball game when you start kind of getting to the teams down south, east. You know, kind of bring in different styles, different ways to train.
Is Iowa still the best wrestling state for high school wrestling? Or is Pennsylvania or Jersey kind of overtaking it?
I hear actually on top of a lot of lists is California.
Really?
Because
One class.
One class.
Oh.
There's
right.
like
But that Herrera guy that moved here, he's going to Ames. I think he was from California.
Yep,
3-time or 2-time? So one class in the whole state. Good golly.
That whole state of California, you got one class.
That's kind of cool.
So like you could have like a school, like you could have like, I don't know.
You could have a Red Oak
small
wrestling
one
Southeast Polk.
Yes, exactly.
Don Bosco versus Southeast Polk.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
It says here that Drayshawn Ross's record is 86-1.
86. So he only lost to the Sinclair kid, who's probably a 4-timer from Wisconsin.
I'm
assuming.
so.
And he's going to a great university. He said Mizzou, go Mizzou Raw, every day, all day.
38 pins, 40 techs, and 3 majors.
And I'm assuming he's going to go to Iowa. It seems like Iowa has a nice pipeline with Fort Dodge, bringing them into to the University of Iowa. They're kind of. I mean, they're just young right now.
That's
81
their
wrestling
87 matches.
Their wrestling program. I mean, they're still very, very competitive, but they kind of took a couple tumbles there recently. Is it because you think they're young? I mean, it's cool. They got a lot of Iowa kids. I mean, if you consider Gabe Arnold an Iowa kid, he's from Georgia, but he's lived here for 2 years now, so we can give him residency. But what do you think about because Iowa State, they just won the Big 12 tournament.
They won the Big 12.
So I mean, Iowa wrestling kind of, I don't know, they're a little down this year to me.
I think Penn State's thing is that they keep their guys healthy. I don't know how they do it, but I think they do it really good. And Iowa's problem is I think we were banged up, And so, like, Real this weekend, I don't know what happened. Sometimes I don't like to say that we're banged up because then it sounds like we're trying to make excuses. But I think that's really what's happening. Because wrestling's a hard sport, and like in college, you see guys wearing the shoulder braces because they always got torn labrums, and you see those guys, they got the knee sleeves like all the time, and like
When I was they're an aggressive. That's their
Oh, yeah.
style, like offensive. Like we're coming at you.
kill each other.
Yeah,
So
it's like and then you watch Oklahoma State. They teach hey, we're gonna play a little defensive, like don't touch me kind of thing, and
well,
technician style.
and it's so weird because like sometimes Iowa just has good days and sometimes they have bad days. Like Brody Teskey this year, he didn't do great in the regular season, but then he goes in and like he like upsets like 2 guys at Big Tens.
Well, then he made it to first.
Yeah.
And then that next week he lost.
Yeah.
I think the guy was still ranked, but he's
Yeah.
higher
And
ranked,
we,
or
like,
8.
We lose to like Michigan. We just absolutely get clobbered by Michigan, and like a week or 2 later, we beat number 2 Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
And we handed them like we gave them like what we win 2 out of 10 match, or they won 2 out of 10 matches or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's just a roll. I mean, there's good wrestling, but Iowa State, UNI,
given day.
Wartburg, Loris, Luther, Iowa Western, Iowa Central.
Yeah.
Don't they have a pretty good wrestling program?
Yeah, Iowa Central
So
does.
I feel Iowa still can compete. They're still college-wise, they're top. That'd be kind of cool. I mean, they kind of do Fargo, because don't they have Team Iowa, all the teams
Yeah.
represent their states?
Yeah.
And Iowa usually does fairly
Yeah,
decent
they
at
do
that.
really well.
Iowa won it 2 years ago
Yeah.
in freestyle.
And Fargo's just high school age kids, correct? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think they would ever go away from folk style and go Greco in high school?
No.
Greco's so much funner to watch.
I hear Bo Nickel talk about it, and he thinks that it's the most entertaining with how it's evolved, a 3-point takedown to 4-point near fall and all this, and that college wrestling is the most watched out of like even the world wrestling, and it's folk style. So
they're saying that the folk style is evolving enough that it's keeping
exactly.
people. Because I mean, watching Greco, like the throws, like just even pausing it at the end, and they got that full it's just
But, like,
it's amazing.
The thing is, like, you like look up highlights. That stuff doesn't happen very much. But in those matches, they're so technical that the average, like, it's the same thing across the board with wrestling. The average viewer can't watch a Greco match because they understand nothing.
That's
So, like I understand a Greco match pretty well, but Justin McCunn, he knows like 10 times what I know.
And
he's
then
not.
you got too many kids that are like out for wrestling for something to do. They want to be competitive, but
Yeah.
it's probably a tougher thing to learn, and the safety aspect of it. You get a high school kid, freshman trying to throw. I mean, their body, it's probably not going to look as pretty as a 22-year-old Olympian.
yeah, learn how to be thrown. Too.
Yeah, no,
learn
that's
how to
very
land
true.
always
Yeah,
says.
that's probably the biggest thing is how do you land?
That's why Pod says he thinks that, like when they do like the injury thing for when you get thrown, Pod says he thinks they need to do away with it because we just need to start teaching kids how to get thrown.
Yeah.
And it's something that needs to happen because that's how you prevent injury is learning how to get thrown, not injury, you just got thrown. Like, you just got dropped on your head. Well, maybe if you would have learned how to not get dropped on your head, you'd be in a better position.
Well, I mean, when you're flying through the air, it's probably like, oh crap, like,
Well, like,
where am I landing today?
But you can maneuver your body in the air. Like, I mean, I got thrown by a kid one time. I got freaking. That was my freshman year, so I got killed. But like, I got pinned, and he was in the arch, and I got pinned. Like, he had like just dropped me on my back, like but then you learn more, and you like, how can I maneuver my body in the air and stuff, and so
how to find that spot to land on.
yeah.
So, yeah, all the rest. Do you think they'll ever go to writing time in high school? I know there was talks of it this past year.
I hope so.
Yeah, do you think it's worth it? Like, I mean, a minute, get a point. I mean, I feel like it'd be worth it. And would it help with stalling, or do you think there'd be more stalling because kids are just trying to write it out?
There might increase a little bit, but like even now, you ride someone for a minute 50 and get nothing out of it if they escape.
And I mean, that's pretty.
You
That's impressive to ride, like, because I mean they're fighting their
Yeah.
all get out to get out of there.
Because you do see more top stalling calls in college, because you'll see guys that are really just, it looks like they're just trying to, but also they did change the rule this year that if you're not, that it's the judge's discretion if you're like trying to get the turn or not. So
Oh,
like
yeah.
if you're just riding him and you're not really, doesn't really look like you're doing anything, he's gonna give you a stall call. But then if you look like you're really trying to chop hands, you're like arm bars and
It's
stuff.
always got to be moving.
If you, yeah.
You always
Yeah.
like grab him for an arm
But
or
at the
something.
same time, it's hard to hold somebody down for even just 30 seconds.
Oh yeah, I mean
Like-
I give Adam Beyer crap all the time because that kid takes all his matches to sudden death overtime,
Yeah.
and it's like, dude, it's 2-1. Now
Yeah.
you gotta ride that dude for 30 seconds and to win. You know,
And he can take anybody down.
I,
like,
you know,
he really can.
just go get it, Adam. The two people I hate to watch wrestle the most are Adam Beyer, because he's just such a defensive wrestler, and
Yeah.
just go, Adam. And then Kyler Sandholm, I mean, just because you could twist that kid like a pretzel, and then all of a sudden
disgusting.
he flips the kid and pins him, and I'm like, you were just about pinned 5 seconds ago, and now you're standing with your arm raised, smiling the Kyler Sandholm way.
He's
So-
been some really good kids
I
that
do.
way.
Dude,
It's amazing to watch how he can contort his body like that, and I mean
it's disgusting.
and he'll hopefully we'll get him 3-time. That's pretty awesome. 2-time state wrestling qualifier, and get Adam back healthy and get him back there too. Man, I think we've almost gone all the way down this list of, I had A through I, and we're tearing it up. So I think we should get to the top 10 or top 5. Sorry. So this week I asked the guys. I have mine top 5 as well. It's kind of a old traditional reliable question. 5 people you would want to have lunch with that are dead or alive. I think the easiest way today, instead of doing 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, everybody, I think we just go one at a time and kind of share your 5 and give a little brief why you would want each one of them there. Does anybody want to go first, or want me to rattle mine off?
You guys go first.
You can go
I'll
first.
I'll go first. All right. So my list, surprise, surprise, has a lot of football involved with it. My first person would be Ed Thomas. He was the head coach at Parksburg High School. If you're a student or a teacher or anybody in the Red Oak area and want to read his book, I have like 3 copies of it. Amazing, amazing book. But he coached 3 or 4 pro players, and then he was shot and murdered in the high school weight room when kids were lifting. Way too young, and it's just him with his motivation and the way he taught things. I'd love to be able to pick his brain and see why he did things the way he did. My next one is Dean Smith. He was the head coach of the University of North Carolina basketball team. So he coached Michael Jordan and stuff, and he had the pillars of North Carolina basketball and just the way he taught people and the motivation. So a lot of these you'll see it's coming back to culture and motivation with these guys. My third one is probably the greatest interviewee of all time is Mike Leach. He was the head coach of Texas Tech, Washington State, Mississippi State. The things he would say were incredible. If you ever get a chance, go to YouTube and just listen to Mike Leach interviews. They'll have you laughing. A reporter asked him one time, "What advice would you give me? I'm about to marry my fiance," and he told her to elope. That don't waste the time on a wedding or anything like that. He said he offered all his kids $10,000 if they would just go elope, and he didn't have to deal with a wedding. And he said all of his kids had a wedding. So, and then another time he describes who would win in a mascot fight between the Pac-12 mascots.
Oh.
So he's an epic dude. My fourth one is Paul Bear Bryant. He was the head coach of Alabama. A great movie to watch is Junction Boys. It was when he was at Texas A&M. They started with about 40 guys. They took them out in the deserts of West Texas. They beat the tar out of them. They came back with like 23 guys, and they ended up doing amazing things at Texas A&M. And he just pushed the kids. But his biggest, well known for his time at Alabama. And that leads me into my fifth one. And my fifth one is my father. My father would be there because I want him to meet Paul Bear Bryant. a die-hard Alabama fan. But the second reason my dad would be there is because my dad can talk to anyone. So if this conversation ever went to a lull, or we needed somebody to pop in with some question, I know my dad would be there to answer it. And I just want him to be able to meet all those guys because my dad would be a great guy to have around that. My honorable mention is one that I feel like everybody says is Jesus or God. The reason I didn't put him on there or her, whatever your belief is that he knows all the answers. So if you're having a debate with people, like all you gotta do is turn to him and so it kind of ruins the mystique of having a debate because he's always going to be right. So that's kind of why I left him off. But he would be definitely he can be at the next table over, eavesdropping in. So that's my list: Ed Thomas, Dean Smith, Mike Leach, Paul Bear Bryant, and my father John Nordine. DB.
All right, I'll go. Number 5, I would do Andrew Huberman, and if I listen to a lot of his podcasts and I listen to a lot of the things he says. And actually, one thing I want to bring up is he talked about with David Goggins how to build your mental strength. And he talked about this part in the brain that it grows in size whenever you do something that you do not want to do, basically. It's something that essentially like sucks. And when you don't do it, it will, again, begin to shrink. And I thought that was very interesting how kind of to build mental strength, it's got to be an everyday type thing. And I thought that was interesting how they talked about that.
That is very, because it's you're learning bad things, but then as soon as you learn to get it out of your life, it dwindles away. It's almost like having a tumor. I mean, it's bad till it's good. I like that. I never heard that before. That was a good one.
Number 4 is Job from the Bible,
Mm-hmm.
a man that was very tested and resilient, and I think resilient is a very important word. And he was, had a lot taken from him, and he never gave up. He was resilient.
Yeah, resiliency, key.
Number 2 and 3 could kind of be interchangeable, and I'll do them at the same time. Cameron Haynes and David Goggins. If you know me, you know I love both those guys.
I figured Goggins would be number 1 for you, but he's close enough.
Both those guys are just, I think they're crazy, and I think crazy is a good word too. And some of the things they've done in their lives is, some things I'm trying to chase after is finding your limits physically and mentally, and I think that's been a big part of my life and what I've learned and taken from both of them.
And I know you mentioned earlier that Can't Hurt Me. That would be actually David Goggins' first book. I've read it. I've read both his books, but that first one, like if you were looking for mental, some way to motivate you, that's probably one of my top 2 books I would recommend, other than Joshua Metcalf, Chop Wood, Carry Water. Goggins you're not going to be able to do what he did. Most people want it. There's a few, but just the way he did it is amazing.
Just realize your life isn't that hard.
Yeah, that's the best way to
Life
put
is
it.
not that hard.
Like if you listen to hear what he had to go through, it's amazing. And then he was able to come out of that fire on the other side.
I think it's a really good book just to get the ball rolling.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of what it did for me.
I try to read it before, because I like to read before going to bed. And you can't read a David Goggins book because you want to get out of bed and run through the wall.
Yeah.
Like it's like to go ahead and go to sleep at 5 a.m. because you're not going. So yeah, great book, great leader right there.
And last one, going off you, Jesus. I'm not a debater like you are, Coach. So I just kind of, he's got all the answers, and I just want to meet him and probably honestly thank him for all he's done.
Yeah.
And honorable mention, I think I'd bring both my parents because, they're an example to me of hard work. And I get up, I think, pretty early, and I walk upstairs into the kitchen. My dad's there every time, up before me, and I don't know how or why. And my mom, 10 minutes behind him, and she's working out probably 20 minutes after she's been up. So I think bringing those two along would be pretty special, kind of, especially with Cameron Haynes and Goggins there. Just that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I always liked watching your dad while you were wrestling. Because, he just moved up there and, he was doing the moves with you. And wrestling parents are the best to watch. But, yeah, your dad is one that I always noticed. And great people. But yeah, I like to debate, but it would be good to have Jesus or God, whichever, there, because I mean, he is the one that brought us here. He gives us a lot of answers about stuff. Bazareth, what do you got, big dog?
My 2 honorable mentions would be Mark Towell from Gotham Garage, just because he's so like, he's built like, I mean, custom cars his whole life and done that, and it's just like crazy how he built a, what do they call them? I don't know. It's just a custom car that he drew up and sketched up and everything. They made it out of fiberglass, used some random car's chassis, and I think it'd just be crazy to pick his brain and see, like, just understand, like, how he, like, finds that and how he gets, like, the drawings going and everything. And then I would say Dale Earnhardt Sr., and I bring my grandma with because that's her favorite race car driver, and I would like to. It would be cool. I don't know if she ever did meet him, but it would be cool for her to meet him.
I've always heard good stories. Like, he was a very personal person.
Yeah.
Like, he'd always, kind of like we were talking about Caitlin Clark, he was always willing to sign autographs and meet his fans, and he'd be pretty cool. He probably has some good stories to talk about.
My 5 is Matt Frazier, because he's 5-time CrossFit champion, and he just I want him. It'd be cool to pick his brain just about lifting and everything, and talk about technique with like the clean and the snatch and how to improve mobility. Those guys are really good with that. Maybe debate with them on the butterfly pull-ups or whatever they're called.
Are those the flippers?
Swing
They drive me nuts. But in that scenario where you're doing stations,
for speed.
I mean, you got to get it done.
Yeah.
And technically, their chin's getting over. But God, it's ugly to watch. What do you think CrossFit? I mean, is it still going strong, or do you think it's going to be like one of those fads that kind of has its peaks, and when people are going to forget about it, then they're going to learn about it again?
I've heard that. I watched a video probably like a month or 2 ago that said that they think that it's going to die out and that it has been dying out. But I watched the 2016 games, and they did that out at the ranch. Or no, that was the 2019 games. They did it out at the ranch, the original place that they did it. And they started it, I can't remember when they started it, but I've just seen it grow. Mm-hmm. It grows. It's in Madison, Wisconsin now. Last year they did a sandbag carry from the arena to the Capitol building.
So it's probably going to be more people that are actually into that kind of stuff.
But it's a niche.
Yes, and it's going to be less of the people that are like, oh, I'm going to try this because it's the new fad. Mm-hmm. You're going to get rid of those people that get in the way and have the ones that are truly into it, almost making it like a sport in an aspect that you're professional in it.
Yeah, I mean it's just like a mini. I mean it's like an Olympic Games. It's just there's one sport going on. It's just that thing. I mean they're doing all sorts of stuff, riding bikes and.
I don't. And we should even bring up the Olympics. They're talking about getting rid of wrestling in the Olympics, which is one of the original sports. But we can have speed walking,
through basketball,
ping pong, flag football. Like, come on. Like, then they have people that ski around and then shoot a gun at a target and then ski some more. Like, we can't have a true the original sport. Yeah. We're going to talk about. All right, my rant.
And there's only 6 weight classes.
It's insane.
Absurd.
But yeah, okay.
And then my 4th is a sports psychologist, because I just want to sit down and I want him to I pretty much just do a whole what you would do if you went to a sports psychologist, because I just want to expand on like you have the mindset side of things, really understand before a match what makes me tick, why I get so nervous before football games, why I get so nervous before certain wrestling matches. Probably one of my most nervous matches was the match I lost in districts against that one kid, and then the one I lost this year, my second one. It's those are the matches that I get nervous for, and I don't know why. But I'll go out against a kid that's ranked 9th, and I just want to go I'm ready to go. So it's I just want to understand why I get so nervous for those matches.
I know Texas high schools are starting to employ psychologists and stuff like that for their sports programs, which I think is huge.
Yeah, that's crazy.
We don't even have a trainer here, so a sports psychologist might be 10 years down the line.
3 would be Cale Sanderson.
Yeah, that's,
I mean, I'm an Iowa guy till I die, but
I thought about putting Dan Campbell.
oh, Dan Gable.
Dan Gable, sorry, on
Talk to
there.
the Lions head coach.
Yeah, I mean, he might be an interesting
Yeah.
conversation too. But yeah, Dan Gable, I thought about him as well.
But like, I mean, just how he flipped that program around from like not being really that good, and like now they're all just humble guys. They're all believers. Like,
Well, they're all like him.
Yeah,
I
they're
mean, he's
all
very
like him.
humble, and
Just
you can tell he's running everything
Yes.
through his head
Yeah.
just by the way he sits there and presents himself.
Yeah.
Like everything's well executed and time framed.
I just want to like understand how he did that and just what his mindset is. A lot of them is just talking about like how they came up and their lives and everything. Like, just I just want to understand more about those people.
Yeah.
I mean, there's books, but
What
at
what
the
makes
same
them
time,
tick?
yeah, what makes people tick. So.
And a book you can read about it, but in a conversation, you can ask them a question that's going to dig deeper than what the book gave you.
Right.
So having those conversations is way better than reading a book per se.
Yeah. Number 2 is Joe Rogan. I mean, he's talked to everybody in the world. Like,
One of the most influential people right now.
Yeah.
I thought about Joe.
I
Like,
mean,
it just like, honestly, just like hang out with him.
yeah.
Just be around him. Like, I mean, do a podcast with him. Like, it'd just be fun. Just like, I like watching Fight Companion because he's just hanging out.
Mm.
So it's like, I don't know. It's just, I would really like to talk to him and I pick his brain too. I mean,
That'd be good, yeah. Joe
Yeah.
Rogan. I've got some solid lists here, boys.
and then my last one's Trump, because not only is it his political side, but also he's a businessman. So like, and like understanding like what really an entrepreneur is, and like how he came up. Like, obviously, yeah, he had his dad's money, but he built that into way more money.
Mm.
Through
properties
He didn't
and-
build Trump Tower with $1 million.
Yeah.
So he built that up, and like I just like want to like understand like also from like a rich perspective, like how he thought compared to how I think. From like, obviously my dad's not gonna give me $1 million to start a business, so it's like just understanding that stuff, and then growing like on the political side, just understanding it more. Like, if anything, I just like want to understand what those guys think about when they are like running for office or stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know much about politics, and I'm not. What I do know is I'm not too happy about it right now. But,
Yeah.
my soapbox rant is we've already had both these guys as presidents, and now we're going to do it again. Like, isn't it insanity if
We
you
need to
do
get
things more
younger.
than once, you're not doing it right. But yeah, there's quite a bit that we could have a whole podcast about how the politics is right now.
Yeah.
And I don't know half of it, but I got my opinions just like everybody else. But we won't get into that. No, those are some solid lists. I think a lot of motivation, a lot of learning about different ways to do things. There's Cale, David Goggins. I mean, those are huge names that we know about. Hopefully, people that are listening will go research these people and learn more about them and what they have to say, because they have great things to say. That's pretty much what I had today to talk about. You guys got any topics you guys wanted to touch on? Baz, DB, got anything?
I want to, since we're on the topic of kind of the mindset mentality, I want to ask you about yours, kind of going through, I don't know if if the listeners will know about your life story, but I think it's pretty amazing how you've come to have me and Baz on this podcast, two guys that have been very influenced by you in a very short amount of time, at least for me in the last 2 years. So I want to ask you about your mentality and kind of the switch.
I think, well, for those that don't really know, I'll do a quick rundown. I was a very horrible person. I spent time in jail. I got in trouble with the law a lot. Just made a lot of horrible choices at the beginning of my life. But I've been, it'll be 12 years in April. I'll be sober and close to 18 years clean off narcotics. But I think the word you used earlier was resilience. And I mean, that resonated with me huge, because that's pretty much what I've used. I always wanted to push forward and and do better. And once I got clean and kind of my mindset, I had that fixed mindset that everybody was out to get me. Nobody liked me. But it was all what I did to myself. So to be resilient and push through and be an assistant coach that's not paid and be at Ballard for 6 years and then try something and go to Roosevelt and always trying to find something better and push kids. But the reason, I brought you two on because you guys buy into what I've been preaching to make your life better than what I had. Because these guys will tell you that, or anybody that's played football for me, that I'm an open book, and I think that's huge to let kids know where I've been, and it's the trust aspect. But it all comes back down to resiliency, being able to bounce back when something hits you in the face and be able to overcome it. I think that's my biggest takeaway from my past is they have resiliency and just the desire to be great. I want to be the best at everything. That's, and I tell people that winning titles isn't the number one thing. Winning's the main thing because that's what teaches you about life. So yeah, you brought that word up and I was like, holy crap, like it's a perfect word. It's a perfect word. So yeah, that's and seeing you guys and the guys we have here evolve. I guarantee you've seen it. Baz, when I first got, and you've known him longer than me. Yeah. This guy, me and him would have knockout, scream out, drag out, screaming matches at each other. But his progression over the years has been phenomenal. And I don't want to take full credit or any credit, but I mean, Pod, me, just the people in your life have that push for you guys to do great is what helps in those situations, I feel.
You guys are the biggest factors that I've got to the point of where I am, because honestly I think lifting helped a lot, just like with like just anxiety and just like depression and stuff like that. Like, I don't know, I'm at the point where I'm like, depression is fake because I'm in the weight room every day, but like really if I'm not, like during wrestling season when I wasn't lifting, it sucked. My mentality went down just because I was like, I'm not doing what I love. Like, I love to get in the weight room and lift. Like, just pushing your body is, like, so good for you. It's just, but you guys, I mean, you were the guy that got me in the weight room, so a big factor. And then Podliska, he, built a discipline and perseverance in me, so.
Yeah, I love what Pod does over there with the wrestling program. It's, and even the baseball program Coach Erickson preaches effort, discipline, team. I mean, you look at all three of the major sports that have consistency at their head coaching position. There's the same message all the way through, and we've all come from different lives. Me and Coach Erickson and Coach Pod, none of us had the exact same life, so you get to hear it numerous different ways, which is huge for high school kids. I just don't want you guys to go down the same path as me. Like I told you, I think you guys heard me say, you guys need to be doctors, lawyers, everything, because I'm going to get old someday, and I need people to help me. So I think it comes back twofold, right? So, but yeah, that's what I would go with. Long worded answer to just say resiliency. Got anything else, boys?
I think that's about it, yeah.
You want to promote anything, Dawson, while you're here?
I'll add this since I know that there's some kids that look up to me, and I thought I should come up with my definition of what mental strength is to me. And I had a couple. After a revise, I did the strength in someone's ability to consistently have control over all their actions. And I think having control over your emotions, your feelings, and then say, like, it's the morning, like, say even this morning, you're tired when you get up. How much control do you have to get out of bed rather than lay there? And, I think that's huge, especially even like an assignment, like practice. How much control do you have to go 100% when you're tired?
Yeah. I mean, because it's a...
Keep your gap, like, in football.
Yeah, it's a mindset. Like, in wrestling, am I going to keep going? Like, I'm tired. Like, it's this third period, I'm down. Like, how am I going to... Read it one more time. I want so they can hear it again. I like it.
The strength in someone's ability to consistently have control over all their actions. And I didn't add consistently before, and I thought consistently is probably one of the most important things.
I think that's one of the biggest words in that, because you could do something here and there.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's not making you tougher because you're telling yourself, well, I don't need to do it every time. It's doing it every single time the right way is what's gonna do. What is it, Bruce Lee? I fear a man that practices. I don't fear a man that practices 10,000 kicks one time. I fear a man that practices one kick 10,000 times, because that's. I mean, you can do a lot of damage with learning and mastering stuff. But yeah, the consistency part of that is that's huge. I mean, because you got to be consistent constantly with mindset. You can't let it falter. When you said something about depression, I read something the other day. It's positivity is if you're one of one, a 1-to-1 ratio, that's what's going to cause depression. And then you got the 2-to-1, and that's what's going to get you elevated and get you out doing stuff. And then the 3-to-1 ratio, positivity to negativity, that's what's going to put you above. So you want to be at that 2-to-1, but those elite athletes, those elite people in academics, in athletics, are those 3-to-1 people that 3 positive things to 1 negative, right? You got to stay positive, even if it's the worst day of your life. That's why they say make your bed every morning, because at least you're coming home to a made bed. You accomplished something that day. And even though it's a made bed, you have to use that. You know, it might be like, I just made who cares, right? But it's something to make it off of. So I like that. I appreciate you sharing that. That's good stuff right there. But yeah, you guys, anything promote? Anything you want to throw out there if it's coming up here soon?
Tune into Cherry Coke with Coach if you want some good information.
We'll bring it every time. But Dawson, I really appreciate you coming and spending this time with us. You know I love you, and whenever you need anything, I'm always there for you. And continue to do great things and make people great. Kip, or Baz, you're gonna look a little different next week.
Yep.
But we appreciate you filling in for the Kipster and bringing your knowledge to us. So thank you again, Cherry Coke with Coach. Find us on Instagram and Twitter. Have a good day.